All right, everyone. Hello and welcome in. It is once again Monday. We are back to the grind after taking the weekend off. Happy Monday to anybody who is not a Green Bay Packers fan. So normally I take the weekend off. I don't produce videos on Saturday and Sunday, and I've been holding to that routine for most of the summer/off season. And I thought I could hold on to that routine at least up until the regular season, but this past weekend has taught me that that might be ending sooner than I thought. So we're actually going to have a discussion coming up on this channel pretty soon about the schedule for the regular season in terms of video production. But for right now, we're going to talk about what the Minnesota Vikings did with their weekend, and that was make their team just a little bit better by upgrading the wide receiver category by signing Dede Westbrook, formerly of the Jacksonville Jaguars, to a one-year contract. It finally happened, everyone. We willed this into existence. This is a victory for us. Let's each give ourselves a round of applause for just talking about this nonstop and actually pointing out Dede Westbrook as a prime candidate for this team to sign in free agency this offseason. It comes to fruition. It comes full circle. We don't really have to talk about depth at wide receiver anymore. It has been solved. Now, I know he's coming off of an ACL injury. We'll get to that in a minute. We shouldn't put all our eggs in one basket, but for right now, I think we can celebrate and be a little bit excited. So, Dede Westbrook is officially a member of the Minnesota Vikings for the 2021 season. It is a one-year contract worth about $1.1 million. Let's talk about the story and how this came to be. So if you're unfamiliar with the events of this past weekend and a few days prior, Dede Westbrook was originally scheduled, to go to Seattle for a free agent visit. And before he did that, Minnesota Vikings were able to convince him to stop in Minnesota, on his way and work out on Friday. And that's what he did. We saw the Snapchat photos of his location at the TCO Performance Center in Minnesota, and the news kept coming out slowly over the weekend as each day passed. Apparently the workout on Friday went great, and they hammered out the details for the one-year contract. Everything originally reported by Josina Anderson, which is where I saw everything first. But by the way, shout out to her. If you don't follow her on Twitter for all your latest and breaking NFL news, you need to do that, because Adam Schefter who, right? She's fantastic and always up to speed. So that's where we're at right now. Dede Westbrook, of course, will not be wearing number 12. I know we've seen a lot of promotional content over that with the weekend with just the jersey swaps, because that seems to be what we do when we're talking about player switching team. We just immediately swap the jersey and keep the number. But Chad Beebe will not be surrendering number 12 to Dede Westbrook. Instead, Westbrook will be making the switch to number 89, which has been pointed out by Vikings PR very nicely. So that's where we currently stand. Let's talk about Dede Westbrook as a player and what we might be able to get out of him for the 2021 season. So originally he was a 2017 fourth round draft pick, not fourth overall, yikes, fourth round draft pick. He has spent his entire career, all 4 seasons, with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Last season he only appeared in 2 games, and he was lost to an ACL tear. So all we have to go on is the 2018 season and the 2019 season. So statistically, if we can get the kind of production that he was able to produce prior to the ACL injury, we're going to have what really is a pretty solid wide receiver 3 in terms of what he's capable of. Because the first couple of seasons, after the rookie year, he saw almost 100 targets, I think, in both of those campaigns, the 2018, 2019. So statistically, in 2018, 66 catches, 717 yards, 5 touchdowns. 2019, just about the same production, 66 receptions, 660 yards, 3 touchdowns. I remember, a time leading up to the 2018 season, just playing fantasy football. A guy like Dede Westbrook looks pretty good on paper, a guy you kind of expect to break out, have a much bigger season than he did the year prior, and it just didn't come to fruition. And I think a lot of that has to do with just, the Jacksonville Jaguars being pretty awful, and, going through quarterbacks like Blake Bortles, Chad Henne, Gardner Minshew. Even though I love Gardner Minshew, I think he's great and fantastic. Clearly the organization is going a different direction with Trevor Lawrence this year. And who knows, maybe if Westbrook was able to stay in Jacksonville, he might have had a resurgence under an offense led by Trevor Lawrence. But that is not what's going to happen. He's going to come to Minnesota and get to play with Kirk Cousins. So I think if we can get that kind of production, the 2018 and 2019 numbers out of Dede Westbrook, I think we're in good shape. We're in just exceptional shape when it comes to wide receiver depth for this team, because now we have Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Dede Westbrook, that gives us a 3 solid wide receiver set. You know, you still have Irv Smith Jr., one of the more underrated pass catchers in the league. I think everybody's sleeping on him. He could have a breakout campaign this year. Dalvin Cook is a threat out of the backfield. Conklin, you know, he's good in a pinch, as we saw at the end of last season. And then, of course, we still have some guys this year that we're very excited about. Some of the younger guys like Amir Smith-Marset. So let's not, you know, put all of our eggs in one basket and celebrate, you know, what could be a spectacular season offensively for this team just based on one signing. But I think for today, we can at least celebrate because this is something that we've been talking about. It's something that we've been wanting to happen for a very long time this year. So also procedural note, the Vikings also released Jalen Twyman. They sent him to waivers today. This is just a procedural thing. It's not, you know, they're not kicking him to the curb because of the, you know, the offseason incident where he was shot 4 times. That's not what this is. This is just them needing him to clear waivers so that he can go on the non-football related injury list. I don't think any other team's going to claim him. You know, everybody is, you know, kind of just doing what they can with the roster spots that they have. You know, it's not that roster spots are a dime a dozen. These are treated like gold this time of year. They need to utilize those in every way that they can, and because cuts are always the hardest part. So, you know, they got to go from 90 to 52. Jalen Twyman will stay with the Minnesota Vikings, I predict, and go to the non-football related injury list. He's just not ready to go yet. So where do we all stand with this signing today, with Dede Westbrook over the weekend coming to the Minnesota Vikings? So my takeaway is that good job, Rick Spielman. Good job, front office, identifying a problem and finally addressing it. I don't have a problem with it taking this long because we're getting a good player for a very cheap contract, even though it is a 1-year deal. You know, the sort of catalyst or secret that we had, the ace up our sleeves, I guess, for the Minnesota Vikings was wide receivers coach Keenan McCardell. He was the one that was able to facilitate this and make this happen, because without him, I think Dede Westbrook just goes to Seattle and says, see ya. Because, you know, for the first 4 seasons, the entirety of Westbrook's career, Keenan McCardell has been his wide receivers coach. So this gives us a good pipeline from his career from Jacksonville to Minnesota to continue his career under the tutelage of wide receivers coach Keenan McCardell. And I think what's also nice is that even though this is a 1-year deal, if things work out, that gives us the edge in the offseason next year, because Keenan McCardell isn't really going to go anywhere. I think he'll be the wide receivers coach here for a few years. So that gives us sort of another ace in the hole, if you will. Overall, listen, we're at this point of the offseason where this is probably one of the last big splashes that we're going to see, barring some kind of wild thing that we're not even prepared for. No more excuses. No more. We've upgraded the offensive line this year. We have Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen. We bring in Dede Westbrook, who should be a reliable wide receiver 3 compared to BC Johnson and Chad Beebe. Listen, this offense has to produce. It has to produce early, and it has to produce all season, because the things that we have been talking about, the things that we talked about all off season, have been addressed in some way. So I am ready for this team to take the next step, get back to the playoffs, make a deep run, and contend for a Super Bowl. That is what I want to see. If this offense starts out bad, I'm going to start blaming people. And for those of you that have been around on this channel for a while now, you know I am not afraid to do that. If you go back to the 2021 Vikings season playlist, you'll see that I have called for Mike Zimmer to be fired, and I have called for Kirk Cousins to be benched, and I wanted this team burned down after the Atlanta Falcons loss, because there can't be any more excuses. This is it. This team has to be competitive, or we need to hit a hard reset. And that's just what I think needs to happen. So let me know what you think of the signing in the comments below, and what you think about this situation going forward. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next one.